Like most women in America, I was put on the pill at a young age, and I never questioned it. Whether it was good for me physically, spiritually, whether it was moral or immoral, I simply assumed that it was a necessary part of being a modern woman. I bought into the widespread social expectation that fertility is a problem for women, and it is a woman's job to deal with it, to make herself functionally sterile. Secular feminism feeds this expectation by lauding contraception as, to quote my former self, the linchpin of women's freedom. But there is a big problem with this idea. It defines freedom for women as freedom from being female. To be free is to be able to function, physiologically speaking, as much like a man as possible. How can that idea be truly pro-woman? When I became Catholic, I was puzzled by the Church's unpopular position on contraception. But for the first time, I felt as though I'd been given permission to question the idea that contraception is necessary for women's freedom. And I began to recognize how a decade of being on the pill had alienated me from my body and made me less aware of myself as a fertile being. In fact, I had learned to view my capacity for pregnancy as something gone wrong, rather than something my body is designed to do. I saw my fertility as a pathology and the pill as a necessary treatment. Moreover, I had internalized the expectation that I should be sexually available on demand without ever getting pregnant. Disconnecting sex from life in this way shaped my view of sex as something purely recreational and trivial, like getting a back rub, going on a hike, rather than how we participate in the transmission of human existence. There are serious social consequences to the assumed sterility of women and the trivialization of sex, namely the sexualization of women and girls. While there have been many advances for women through the early feminist movements, this is something that has clearly and significantly worsened since the 1960s. Pope Paul VI warned of this when he wrote Humanae Vitae, a letter that reaffirms the Church's stance against contraception when the rest of Christendom was moving in the opposite direction. He wrote that men would forget the reverence due to a woman and, disregarding her physical and emotional equilibrium, reduce her to a mere instrument for the satisfaction of his own desires. A quick glance at our culture will tell you that this has happened. There is a potent irony here. Something championed by secular feminism, contraception, has ultimately undermined women's dignity. Catholic feminism is unapologetically pro-fertility and pro-body. A woman's body is not a problem to be fixed, but a reality to be respected. Now, does this mean that women need to be baby-making machines, churning out as many children as possible? Of course not. That is a silly caricature of the Catholic perspective. Instead, the Church recommends fertility awareness-based methods of family planning, usually called natural family planning or NFP. Here's the difference between using contraception and NFP to avoid pregnancy. Most contraceptive methods work by disrupting a woman's healthy and normal bodily processes. They make her reproductive system malfunction. NFP works by giving a woman intimate knowledge of her body, so she can recognize signs of fertility and abstain from sex to avoid pregnancy. One works by changing a woman's body. One works by empowering a woman with greater knowledge of her body. It is true that pregnancy and motherhood can present very real risks and challenges to women, particularly women with little support and resources. But instead of altering women's bodies to fit social norms based on male bodies, a Catholic feminist approach seeks to change those norms. We can build communities that respect, support, and accommodate women's capacity for motherhood.